This is session number 67 of Brain Software with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. Welcome, fellow storm riders. The hypnotic storm continues to spread, gaining power and momentum, and you're either in it or riding it with us.
It's spreading like a rash.
He's pathologically on time. He loves Oregon Pinot Noir and nearly crashed his car on the way into the studio this morning. Please welcome to the center of the center of the hypnotic centered epicenter center, Mike Mandel.
Bravo! Yes, Chris, all of that, of course, is
I think
true.
that was one of the most strange
I know,
introductions.
well, we're getting there. Our sound check was pretty weird. Chris was talking a few minutes. We'll get to these 3 points, but Chris was talking a moment ago. He just came up with this really wonderful way of stressing someone and confusing them. If someone bothers him, he would say to them, why don't you consider investing in me? It's so freaking weird and sounds like there's some hideous sexual agenda behind it that's totally inexplicable.
I just wanted to disclose that I came up with part of it, and then you tweaked it to sound even more disturbing.
Well, okay, there is that. Let's go back over those 3 points,
All right,
shall we?
so
we are back. Now, yes, I am pathologically on time. It's a funny thing for Enneagram Type 8. And we dominate time, so time does not dominate us. Now, you'll know Adam, our jiu-jitsu guy. He's always at class. Class starts at 7, so he's always there. But
an hour early.
Yeah, quarter after 6 or something. The mats are set up, and he just waits. Well, I'm never really early, but I'm never late either, and I'm always here.
You get stressed out if you're hitting an external situation that's going to cause an effect on your schedule, like you're going to be late because of traffic or whatever.
I feel like I'm out of control.
Yeah, totally stresses you
but
out.
It's not neurotic or anything like that. Let's talk about Oregon Pinot Noir. You are correct. I don't know who your researcher is, Craig, but you are correct. You are Craig, Chris.
Craig, Chris,
correct,
Jeff,
Chris.
Dexter.
Jeff, well, that would be me.
That would be you.
But the thing that's interesting about it, Oregon Pinot Noir, I think, is some of the best in the world. And so is Washington State. They do another really, really good one.
All those New World Pinots, right?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's turn this into a wine podcast.
Yeah, let's do that. And
no,
the third
this is a self-development and a hypnosis podcast.
Now, what was the third one? The accident. Almost crashed the car on the way here. I'm not kidding. I came across Highway 401 to get to Hypno Central East, which is where we are right now, or whatever we're calling it these days. Is that what they're calling it? Is that what you're calling it these days? And Highway 401... above Toronto is the busiest stretch of highway in North America, believe it or not. That's why people are always surprised to come here for our courses, and people come from Europe and around the world and think they're going to wind up in some backwater, and they're astounded at how big Toronto is. Well, Highway 401 across the top of the city is 16 lanes wide. Yeah. So I'm flying along the 401 on my way here at a reasonable pace. A guy beside me in the left-hand lane. About 115. So the guy beside me in this idiot green car suddenly drifts over the line and almost clips me. I had to swerve out of his way because he's moving into my lane. I looked up, Chris. Guess what he was doing? He was texting. He was texting.
We talked about this on podcast 66.
And I saw it again today. And it was one of these really stupid ones where his head is down for 5 seconds on the text, up for 1 second to check the road, down for 5 seconds on the... I wanted to drag him out of the car and sacrifice him to something. Yeah. So anyway, I was almost killed, but...
That's where you pull out your fake police officer badge and you hold it up against the window.
I didn't have it in the car. I wanted to just come up beside him and wave it at him.
Yeah, and then just start gesturing him to pull over at the side of the road.
What I do when I hold that up is I yell, I'm not a cop.
Yeah.
And all they hear is the word cop. And they see me holding this, and I go to court. I'm not impersonating one. In fact, I'm telling the person I'm not one.
That's really good.
Right. Now, where are we going to go with this?
Let's go. Okay, so I want to start off because on podcast 66, we spent some time discussing the HypnoThoughts Live conference that's happening in Las Vegas in August. I believe the dates are the 26th through the 28th, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday of August 2016. And we will be there, and you're teaching a few classes during the conference, but we now have official confirmation that you are teaching a one-day pre-conference mindscaping class.
Yes, I am.
On the Thursday,
teach the entire system of mindscaping on the 25th of August in Las Vegas. So do you want to explain how people can get in on that?
I do.
It's become a very popular thing with our product.
Here's what's happening. Most of the people going to HypnoThoughts who are presenting either a pre- or post-conference class are charging money for their classes. We decided to do something a little bit different, a lot different. We're giving our seats away. So the seats to Mike's Mindscaping class are free. provided you're a customer of the Mindscaping digital class.
So provided you buy the digital product, you get a seat live in Las Vegas to do the whole thing with me for a day.
Right, and we haven't changed the price. The price of Mindscaping is 197 Canadian. That's the digital course price, and you can check it out at MikeMandelHypnosis.com/Mindscaping.
Which is about $140 American right now, isn't it?
It's something absurdly low.
Canadian dollars low right now. Good time to buy it.
When you pick up a copy of Mindscaping digital version, then you, with the promo, there's a special page. I'll put it in the show notes, but I believe the page is MikeMandelHypnosis.com/HT Live 2016. So all lowercase HTLIVE 2016. That's the page where all of this is explained. But basically, you buy the digital Mindscaping course, which is about 2 hours and 15 minutes of awesome digital training. You own that. You can access that forever. And you get a seat complimentary to the one-day Mindscaping workshop that Mike's going to go through the entire system and teach it. And the cool part is you actually get a discount on your HypnoThoughts ticket. The ticket price as of the recording date right now is US $339, I think,
something like that. Yeah,
and you get to buy your ticket for US $275 if you buy it using our link. So basically, you're getting a pretty significant discount on the HypnoThoughts Live conference. If you're planning on going, you buy that ticket after buying the Mindscaping product through us. Then you get the discount on the ticket, and you come to the Mindscaping class for free.
It's a no-brainer. And if people are wondering what Mindscaping is, it's a great therapeutic and coaching tool I came up with. 3 years ago, it's been put through rigorous testing, works really well. You can apply it to virtually anything.
So for people who are hypnotists, counselors, coaches, and they're listening and they want to know,
workers,
how can you describe what is Mindscaping in 30 seconds or less?
Mindscaping gives you immediate access to your subject's unconscious mind, where the subject's unconscious mind presents you with the keys to unlock their problem.
Okay.
So it's powerful beyond belief, and you can apply it to immune function, you can apply it to creativity, problem-solving, relationships, anything you can think of.
Can you go into a little bit more detail on how specifically
it creates a hypnotic state without being classical hypnosis? The person
by having them visualize,
right?
Generally,
but it happens. It pops into their mind. You're accessing a map for that purpose. So if they have a meeting tomorrow they're nervous about, you access the map for that meeting, make adjustments to the map, and all of a sudden the problem disappears. Right. Or it's their health, a huge map, and you can change the entire map for their health or whatever it is.
And there's an entire protocol around pre-framing that the map will be the right map for the problem.
Right. And the wonderful thing is, if you're a therapist, this is a great way to kill 10 minutes or an hour and a half. If you don't know what to do, it's a great starting point in any session. Or if you're a sports coach, you can use it.
And when we say map, we literally mean
the internal map they're creating.
In their own mind, they're imagining that they're inside of this map. And the map could be a forest or a beach or a mountain.
Yeah, it's amazing what the unconscious throws out.
It could be completely abstract.
Right.
We've seen all kinds of stuff. But people's unconscious minds will throw out this map once we tell them to.
And we're able then to landscape it, to adjust it. And it's powerful beyond belief.
Right.
Enough said.
Okay. So check it out at MikeMandelHypnosis.com/HT Live 2016.
All right.
For the year 2016. All lowercase. Except for the numbers. They should be uppercase.
Correct.
That's a hilarious line.
Brilliant.
Speaking of confusion, which we'll get to. Okay, now we want to talk about cold reading.
Yeah. I got a question from, I think he's one of our students near Belleville, Ontario. He's doing hypnosis shows and so on, and he's very interested in mentalism and cold reading. And for those of you who don't know what it is, cold reading is a technique where you sit down opposite someone, and you'll see this in a lot of these psychic science fairs. I have friends who do this for a living, and you'll have it, ostensibly, you're not really getting any information from them, but in reality, you're getting a lot of information from them, feeding it back to them, and it seems like you have supposed psychic abilities.
Give us a quick example of what might happen.
Well, a classic thing is most people have a scar in their left knee, and women are more aware of their scars than men are. So you're sitting next to or across from a woman who has, jeans on, and you say, I'm getting an impression you have a scar in your left knee. I used to use that on stage, and people are freaked. How could you possibly know? Which adds credibility to everything else you say. It's a technique. It's a trick. But you can feed back just all kinds of stuff. It's because of the confirmation bias, Chris, the fact that we tend to listen to and believe things that confirm our previously held beliefs. Of
Right.
course, the most extreme example of this being Kripkean dogmatism.
Mm-hmm.
We look for things to confirm what we believe to be true. So any mentalist knows what happens in a mentalism effect is seldom the way it's described after the fact. You know, I worked in Newfoundland. We did a documentary there, and I did an effect on two guys and made the card the guy took from a borrowed deck appear in the card case across the room. And they swore I had not gotten up from that couch even once. Well, obviously I had. I had to get up to put the card in the case, but none of them remember that.
Oh,
and they
wild.
swore that I had put it, never gotten up at all. The reconstruction after the event is one of the things that will make cold reading work. And one of the tricks is you throw a lot of stuff at the person and wait for yes answers. You've got to calibrate the person. You're looking at them closely, looking for nods of agreement, unconscious responses. So if you say, you know, I'm getting the impression there's been a death recently, and the person, you know, has lost a friend of theirs 2 years ago, so they hear that as recent in their mind. And you say, and the person, yes, is it a family member? And the person, no, a friend of yours died recently. Is that correct? Yes. Now, when the person reconstructs this later, they'll go home and say, oh, this guy's psychic. He's amazing. I just sat down. He looked at me and he said, one of your friends died 2 years ago.
Right.
That's how they'll tell it. And they will remember it as coming out that way.
And that's the confirmation bias?
That's the confirmation bias. And people want to believe. They want to believe it's true. And so, one of the tricks is one of the methods of cold reading is to throw a lot of stuff at the person.
And see what sticks.
And see what sticks. And they'll only remember what sticks. And then you explore that. Instead of saying it as questions, you say it as statements.
So you spend investigative time throwing a lot of stuff, seeing what sticks, and then you invest most of the time in what actually sticks.
Okay, well, let's pretend. You just sat down across me, okay? So we play along. And I say, I understand you had a trip recently. You went somewhere recently. Yes. And I'm thinking you went somewhere warm. Is that correct?
Well, not hard to guess because it's winter.
You got a tan, right?
Yeah.
It's winter in Canada.
Right,
so I'm reading that. So I'm saying somewhere warm. And you say yes. And I say, this was a business trip. And you say, no, I was there with my family.
Yeah.
And I say, but you were dealing with business when you were there. And you think back,
yes, I was. I had to do some work while I was
Chris
there.
will then go and tell, if he's falling for this, we'll go say, you know, I sat down opposite Mike Mandel. He said to me, "You've just been to the Dominican Republic,
and you had to do work on your trip,
work on your computer when you were there." That's how it will be sold after the fact. So, cold reading. There's one method is throwing a lot of stuff out and calibrating the responses. There are entire books written on how you can throw stuff at people from different ethnic groups. If the person is a young female Hispanic, these are the things to say. Mm-hmm. And they're likely to be true. You know, if I see somebody's wearing a crucifix with Christ on the cross, which is a Catholic thing, Protestants don't wear that. I'd say, you know, you haven't been to Mass recently, have you? No. What does recently mean? That morning? You know, so you learn to read this stuff. You learn to pick up on these cues.
Any books you can recommend? We can throw them in the show notes.
Not specifically. Do a web search. It's all over the place. One other point I wanted to mention. Google the classic reading. The classic reading, I don't have all the points at my fingertips. I haven't done it in 15, 20 years. You basically have about 8 to 10 statements that you throw at someone. And they fit 80% of people will say that they're accurate. So you say
I'm getting the impression you haven't done classic reading recently.
Yeah, but Chris just sat down opposite me. He said, "You have not done." He could tell. Okay, so there's things like outwardly you appear self-assured, but inwardly you doubt your own abilities. Well, who doesn't?
Everybody a little bit.
Right?
There's always a degree of doubt. So, yes,
yes,
because it's an analog. It's a shade of gray. It's not an on or an off thing.
Of course,
right.
Sometimes you are outgoing and eager to please and see other people. Other times you just want to withdraw and get away. Well, everybody does.
You know what this reminds me of is the horoscope readings in the papers and stuff. They're all so broad and
vague and full of nominalizations. Yeah. But here's a great one. This is on the classic reading. You say, your sexual adjustment has caused you some difficulties. Now, what? That's an actual thing in the classic reading. Now, what does that mean exactly? I think virtually anybody, except me and Chris, could apply that to themselves and say, yeah, I have had some adjustment problems. Now, that might mean, you know, you haven't been intimate with your spouse for a little while. It might mean that
you're having maybe you're having
really careful with this. This is a family thing.
Okay,
yeah.
let's
there could
change.
Be some
let's
problems
change the
with
topic.
Turgidity, you know, and fluid transfer right into the tissues of the body and without strength. You know what I'm saying,
This is just
right?
horrible.
Yeah. No, it's not. I'm just saying, I'm talking about, in all seriousness, about the ways people will apply this to themselves, right?
You're making a very broad statement, and then people are taking it and making a specific adoption of that statement to their situation.
And you know,
saying,
Chris,
oh, yes, that's true.
Right. And you know, as a principle of offering back someone else's language, people will get rapport from that immediately. Of rapport. So if the person says, "Oh, I'm here for this psychic reading because I'm nervous about my job and I wonder what the future holds for me." Mm-hmm. So you do all your psychic reading stuff and you've been to the tropics and this and your sexual adjustments cause some difficulties. And then you say, and I get the sense that you're nervous about your job. You're wondering about the future. Yes, they will actually forget they said that to you if you use the same words. So that's another method. Look up the classic reading. It's online. There's different versions of it, but it's very, very powerful. And the bottom line is, Chris, if you have real graphological skill, you don't need any of this stuff. All you got to do is get somebody to write a sentence and sign it, and you will seem like a psychic. Because
you're getting real
I do this in the college circuit all the time. So check out online our graphology course, and it is live now. And you can do more than 7 hours of training with me online and learn how to be unbelievably seemingly psychic.
Yeah, actually, that's a really exciting thing, Mike, because as we're recording this, only 2 days ago, we finished the graphology course as a digital product and put it online. So I'll spend a quick moment mentioning this. Normally, we do a 1 weekend class in Toronto. So once a year, we spend a Saturday and Sunday.
Right at University of Toronto.
And Mike teaches about handwriting analysis or graphology.
Which I am trained in and certified in and have done this forensically for many, many years.
Right. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a substantial investment for the people coming from out of town because they've got to fly into Toronto, rent a hotel, plus they've got to pay their class tuition, feed themselves, and all that. Well, for those people who can't justify a 2-day trip into Toronto, we turned this into a digital course. So instead of the 2 days, you buy it and you watch it at your leisure in our new technology platform, which is amazing.
Yes,
and it's about
it is.
7.5 hours of video.
You can watch this on your portable devices too?
Yeah, it's mobile friendly. It works on iPads, iPhones, Androids, MacBooks, PCs, whatever you want. It's absolutely fantastic.
I tell you guys, you'd like the course. We've had someone come over all the way from France to study this, and it's a phenomenal thing. It's not some dust dry course. It's a lot of fun with a live class, and then you see me go through different samples and explain the psychopathy or the problems. And here's the thing you can look at in your own writing right away. If you do a sample of cursive script, the normal handwriting, the height that you put the crossbars on your small letter T's tells so much about you. The higher you put them on the stem, the higher you set your goals in life. Yeah. The lower you put them on the stem, the more you doubt your own abilities.
We put a really good introductory video in. It sounded like I didn't say that clearly, so I'll say that again. We put a really good introductory video on graphology on the website at mikemandelhypnosis.com/handwriting. And right at the top of that page, and I'll put this in the show notes as well, there is a good video. It's probably 7 or 8 minutes of you talking, Mike, about handwriting and showing a whole bunch of
scientifically accurate and scientifically verifiable.
Yeah. And so if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, I don't know if this is real, just watch the video. Watch the video and you'll say, oh, I actually did know quite a bit about this intuitively.
Right.
It really does make sense.
Okay.
Tons of sense.
Check it out. Now, we got some other stuff here. We had, what was the question you had here, Chris, about rapid inductions?
Okay, so we had a question that came in from Barry. This is a really good question. And he said, I would be very interested in hearing your opinions on how to use rapid inductions with family members or people that one would regularly be putting into trance. Creating a PGO spike relies on the startle effect. Now I'm guessing this won't work if the subject is expecting it. So that's his question/comment. And
there's a lot there.
Now we need to unpack this, but we first need to explain what is a rapid induction, and we need to explain what a PGO spike is, and then we can answer the question. So I'll just start by telling you, if you go to our website, mikemandelhypnosis.com, go to the blog specifically, so /blog, and you'll see in the sidebar a little add to a video that we have that explains rapid and instant inductions. It's about a 10-minute video, and it's a fantastic explanation.
And it's free.
Right, absolutely free. So go to mikemandelhypnosis.com/blog, and you'll see a link to that video. Anyway, rapid inductions.
Well, let's even back it up before that, Chris, where we have talking about doing this with family members. And again, family members are tricky when it comes to hypnosis because they will not typically take you seriously enough. Now, there will be family members that you'll have no difficulty hypnotizing under all sorts of conditions, but generally speaking, we advise people not to hypnotize family members or attempt to, because that's what it will often be, until you really have a lot of experience and they know you to be a hypnotist. Because they'll treat it like a joke, they'll be smirking, opening their eyes when they shouldn't, all that stuff. Although, our brilliant student and master student, Mohammed, he went home from a 2-day Ericksonian course I taught, and after the first day, he went home and hypnotized his father.
Yeah.
Just zoned him through the floor, which was amazing. So there are exceptions.
Yeah. Now, that, I will say, though, Mohammed is a magician as well. Very skilled guy. So he's going to come across with total congruence.
Absolutely.
And he's going to deliver this stuff with just immense congruence and confidence. And it will work.
Intention.
Right? So he will be taken seriously.
Yeah, so you want to explain the PGO spike, Chris?
Right. So first of all, let's just quickly touch on the idea of what is a rapid induction. And I think in this case, what he really means is an instant induction.
For sure, yeah.
Because if we're going to be using a PGO spike, which is just a complicated, it's an acronym, but it just means you're startling the person in some way, which is causing this neurological response in the brain. It's a startle reflex. So Barry asked, the PGO spike relies on the startle effect. No, it is the result of the startle. It's the neurological result of a startle.
And the brief window you get past prefrontal cortex executive function to enable you to get information in and cause a response right away, because the brain is confused and looking for resolution. So you offer resolution. Right.
We have an entire training on this that you can check out on our website, and I already gave you the link, so I won't over advertise it here. But the basic idea is that you might do something with somebody where they're looking into your eyes and you're making direct eye contact while they're pushing one hand down on your hand. So you're palm to palm, they're pushing down on your hand, but you have them looking into your eyes and you're talking to them. And then at some point, you might have them close their eyes or not, it wouldn't really matter, but you might just pull your hand away. And as they're pushing down, there's a startle reflex because of the fact that they're pushing down and all of a sudden there's no resistance anymore. So they shoot forward and you yell, sleep.
Sure, and that's slipping past the critical faculty and the person's responding to it. Now, when that happens, though, you'll get that response. It'll only last a few seconds unless you take control of it right away. You have to have rapport for this to work. Without rapport, you'll get them into a quick trance, but they won't stay there without rapport. So you have to build your rapport first, and anything that startles them will work. Now, this is what Chris and I found hilarious. One hypnosis trainer who is not known for rapid inductions or things of that nature, known mostly for talking to people in conversations and so on. We saw him do a video on setting up a PGO spike, the rapid induction. And if it doesn't work, he says, just do it again and again and again. Just keep doing it until it works.
Mike, that bothered me. That was disastrous.
Drips with ridiculosity.
Yeah. Ridiculosity.
It's nice, isn't it?
Love it.
Another coin term.
Nice made-up word.
It's glanative.
Right.
But yeah, it's just crazy. If you didn't startle him the first time, just do it again. Just do it again. You're basically saying, get down here. Get out. Get out.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. You have to do something different. And you are right in your question that if they're expecting it, you can't do it when they expect it. But when I do something like, I'm trying to think of an induction that would be a perfect example of this. When I do like a REM induction, Chris, there's a PGO spike built in. The person's tracking my finger moving. Now, even in a classroom setting where they know I'm going to do it, they don't know exactly when.
They don't know the exact moment that you're going to fire that startle reflex. And I'm
keeping them so occupied with their eyes following my fingertip, their eyes closed, and overloaded, following a non-existent fingertip because their eyes are shut. And I typically, if they know I'm going to do that, I do it sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. So they think, oh, in a couple of, bang, I've already done it.
You know what this reminds me of? Have you ever had the hiccups or known somebody who had the hiccups and they
Never.
say like, oh, I want you to scare me because that'll make the hiccups go away. So you're asking the person, I need you to scare me. Boo! Well, of course you say no problem, and then you wait a minute or two when you know they've forgotten briefly, and so they are expecting it unconsciously, but they just don't know the timing.
Yeah.
And because they don't know the timing, it can still work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just funny that I forgot. Yeah, they're waiting.
Yeah, exactly. So the question, though, that he had asked was, well, really about, do you have any tips on using these inductions with people? Just do them. Just do them correctly. Do them the way they're taught. Do them on a lot of people. Do them often.
I'm hearing that kind of question. I'm suspecting that he's not getting a good result.
Yeah, and that it might just be you're not doing them enough.
Yeah, and maybe you're not doing it with sufficient shock. Mm-hmm. You have to startle the person. If you want to see the best examples of this, nobody did this better than Gil Boyne. And if you find any videos of Gil Boyne's rapid or instant inductions online, they're worth watching. He would often grab the person by the wrist and yank their neck, which I don't go along with because I have a bad neck. If you do that to me, I'll kill you. But once I get out of the hospital anyway. But he would then lower them down by their wrist and everything, right to the floor sometimes. So it's remarkably powerful.
All right, now, we have some other stuff we want to talk about here before we get to the end of the podcast.
I want to talk about the thing you did with the guy online, with that idiot, which I think you handled it so freaking brilliantly, Chris. I was high-fiving you from a distance when you showed me this. You explained it, because it's so good.
So Mike taught me, and I'm sure he's taught you too, because you're listening, and if you've listened to the podcast, I'm sure this has come up, something called the Jerry intervention. And that's when... You want to confuse somebody, and you want to... And let me back up, and I'll explain what happened, how I used the Jerry intervention.
And let's remember, the point of the Jerry intervention is seizing the power via confusion.
Right. So what was happening is I had made a comment in some online discussion, and this gentleman didn't seem to agree with me.
It wasn't hypnosis. It was an unrelated field.
It was unrelated to hypnosis, but this guy just didn't agree with me for whatever reason. He interrupted the conversation, threw in his own wide-sweeping generalist remarks that had absolutely no relevance to the actual discussion that was going on. And so I called him on it and said, look, we're actually talking about this specific issue, not this wide-sweeping generalization statement that you made. Which
so
he then attempted to come back and say, well, no, I am talking about that issue. And why is it that every single American believes X and Y and Z? And now going into broad general mode again. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy is just... Let me just call it a spade here. The guy's an idiot. He doesn't understand. Yeah, he's just... Anyway, I thought, okay. So I warned him. I said, look, you're not going to win this debate. I suggest that you back out now, because this is not going to go well for you. Gave him a friendly warning.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't like fighting an unarmed man.
So he comes back again, and that's when I throw the Jerry intervention on him. So
nice.
You're egging him on. You're giving him a chance to say some more stuff.
Well, so that you can enough rope that you can hang him with.
So then I dropped the line. So I wrote to him. I said, Jerry was so right about you.
So his initial thought is, Jerry who?
Well, that was the immediate response. Jerry who? And I said, I think you know.
So now this guy's spinning, going, wait, this is all slipping out of my hands. Who is this guy? What's he talking about? Who's Jerry? So, and what am I supposed to know? Like, what are people saying about me?
So the next response, this is typical, though, by the way. This is textbook Jerry intervention. So it's Jerry was right about you. Or Jerry was textbook Jerry intervention.
I coughed so much I hurt myself in a weird spot. He said, this is textbook Jerry intervention. What a great thing.
Textbook application, or textbook response, I should say. So, Jerry was so right about you. Jerry who? I think you know. And then he says, I honestly have no idea what you're talking about. And this is you feed it back. You go, I'm talking about you.
Brilliant.
You have to read the tone into it.
The rest of it is, I think you know, or you. You just come back. But I don't get what you're talking about. You.
We're talking about you.
But why are you saying this? I think you know.
Yeah, it's a circle.
It drips with portent, and it pulls them out of their sureness and their certainty into a land where things are weird, and there's someone called Jerry talking about me. And if they know someone called Jerry, they'll immediately presume it's him.
And if they don't, then they're really confused and think, do I? Who do I know that's named Jerry, and what did he say about me? Right? Oh, so here's the thing, though. It confuses the heck out of the person, and then they are never able to recenter on the debate that they were originally engaging in.
You pull the rug right out
It's gone, and they can't even remember. It's like that cold reading thing you were describing earlier.
Yeah.
They just have no recollection of what the heck they were even arguing about.
Fantastic.
And they're so confused by the whole thing they don't want to go back to the debate anyway.
You know it ends. You know what I think, Chris? I think Jerry was so right about you.
Jerry was so right about me.
You.
Yeah.
Brilliant use of the Jerry
So this is a really fun one that you can do on people. Just say it with sincerity. Jerry was right about you.
So right.
Or so right about... I added the right. And I put it in all upper cap, like S-O uppercase. Jerry was so right about you. It's a great one.
Brilliant.
So the idea here is that you're seizing the power via confusion.
Nice.
Are there other ways that we have... Oh, there's lots of other ways.
Yeah, there's billions. We'll put them in other podcasts.
Yeah.
We want you to have a fun life. Remember, life should be effortless, enjoyable, and vaguely annoying to other people. These are the tools to make it vaguely annoying. I want to give you now 3 really cool practical jokes you can do when you're driving.
Okay.
And these are my 3 favorites, and I've looked at a number of them.
3 hilarious driving jokes.
Now realize you do these at your own risk. You're assuming all risk if you do any of these. Mike Mandel, Enterprises.
Let's rephrase it.
These are
Thompson,
3. Mike Mandel, Hypnosis Academy assume no responsibility for the application or results of any of these techniques.
The use or misuse of these techniques. These are 3 hilarious things to Mike that Mike has done, and he is not telling you to do them.
Yeah, they might not be so funny to other people, but they're brilliant.
I have no idea what you're going to say, so I'm curious how dangerous these are.
Here's the easiest one first. This is one that Michael C. Anthony did on me, and I credit him with the joke. It scared me half to death. And then the wonder of it is you're terrified, and then you realize it's a joke, and you burst out laughing with a sense of relief.
Is this the same Michael C. Anthony that sent you a photo of how he checked out of a hotel and put the pillows in the bed to make it look like there was a corpse?
Yes, it was him.
Okay.
So, brilliant comedy. We laugh our heads off every time I see him, as you know. So he did this on me years ago, before he moved to Florida from Mississauga, Ontario. Even though he's an American, he was living in Mississauga, a suburb of Toronto area. What he did was he had this red Pontiac he used to drive around in. And we're roaring along some back street in Mississauga. It wasn't even a back street. Like it's a fairly busy road, so 2 lanes on each side. And there's a traffic light up ahead. But it's busy traffic, too. The traffic light was quite a distance. I don't mean like, quarter mile, but it was a couple of 100 yards away. All right? So we're driving along, and he's talking, and he's just yakking away driving. And the light goes yellow ahead of us. But it's quite... And he instantly floors it like he's going to try to make the light.
Okay.
But he's way, way back.
So there's no way he'd make it.
It's going to be red, and like 4 seconds later, he'll be going through, right?
Yeah.
So he just floors it. I went, Mike, don't do it. And then he just bursts out laughing. I realized, so you got to time it right, but that can be highly entertaining.
Okay, so the idea is the light has turned yellow, and you're so far away
that you'll never make it.
You'll never make it, but you pretend.
Floor it like you're trying to make it, which is brilliant. Now,
it would be hilarious to do in a Tesla with the instant acceleration.
Oh, yeah, you would make it. Now, here's the other one. This is another one that's a little more difficult because you've got to have the right setting. But this was done on a friend of mine by some guys in the U.S., and it's brilliant. They had a big old Buick or something that didn't corner well. So you're like one of the last of the big cars. But you can do it in whatever car you want. And there's 3 guys from this college in the front seat of the car. And I think there were people in the back too, because he's wedged in the middle between 2 other guys on this big bench seat. So they're zooming along, all jammed in. And ahead of them is a shopping mall, and the road takes a really hard left.
Okay, so forced towards the passenger side as the turn happens.
One would think.
Yeah.
So that's right, good inertia, centrifugal force. So he's flying along, this guy talking. You got to always be talking like you're not really paying attention to how dangerous it is what you're doing.
Right.
And then he sees this turn coming at the sharp turn. The other guy notices it as he's still talking, and he says, I like to take this, because he's already going too fast for the turn, okay? And he says, I like to take this as fast as I can. And he floors it now. He's already in a spot where there's no possible way of turning the wheel that sharp without rolling the car. And he floors it instead of braking. And instead of turning, he just goes up the ramp into the shopping mall and slows down and stops. And my friend John said he almost had a heart attack. He said it was so funny, though, when he realized. Okay, so here's the third one.
So the idea was that he believed that the guy was going to be taking this sharp left. But
that'll give you a PGO spike, man. And then he could turn him and say, sleep now, and watch what happens.
So he was really just driving straight out of the turn and into a shopping mall.
Up a ramp. So now here's the third one. And this one I created myself, and I got Paul Moyer with it. This one you may have to wait to get someone, but it's really, really worth it. He and I, and the reason it's worth it is because this so closely simulates being in a car crash, it terrifies the other person. Oh, no. So he and I are coming back from Kingston, Ontario, late one night, or a small town near there. I had a gig somewhere, and I know it was way east of the city, and he's tired, and he's nodding asleep in the passenger seat, and I'm driving. And so we're on a side road, trying to get down to the main highway. And up ahead of me, I see a railroad crossing if you're in the U.S., up a bit of a hill, and there's like a bump sign too, so it's going to be a rough crossing. And I was going at a fairly good clip. So what I did is he's asleep. The second I hit the railroad crossing,
slammed on the brakes.
There's multiple phases. You do it once. Slam on the brakes. open the door, the driver's side, hit the horn, and scream.
Oh, no.
All the same. So all that happens is this crash of impact. The door opens, there's a rush of air, the light comes on inside, the horn, and there's screaming, and it just... Paul sits up, and he absolutely thought I'd slammed into a truck or something at highway speed.
Even though
it was so funny, man.
I see why this is potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
So you would... It's a stupid thing to do that...
Brilliant.
Would require an empty road.
Oh, yes, it does. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just telling you I did it. and hit the brakes hard, and the door opens, the rush of air, and the light coming on, and the screaming, and the horn. And just fantastic.
Okay, this is... I would never do that.
That's going to fire a PGO spike.
Don't do that to your wife.
Why don't you give us the empowering question as we move along?
All right. Here's your empowering question. And the pre-frame for this is we've been delivering a lot of empowering questions to you on different podcasts or in videos if you've been watching our YouTube videos and our webinars. So here's your empowering question for podcast 67. What is it going to take for you to apply these empowering questions to your life? And how soon are you going to do it? What is it going to take for you to apply these empowering questions to your own life? And how soon are you going to do it?
Brilliant, Chris. That's excellent. I want to give the metaphor for today, and it's a story of Derek Balmer, my mentor. Derek Balmer was a Cambridge linguist. He was actually, in his youth, he was the world amateur wrestling champion, too. Really super smart man. As John Grinder described him, totally out of touch with his kinesthetic, but really interesting guy. And he, would smack us in the head and that in class when we made mistakes, and just a wonderful guy to work with. He gave me so much NLP knowledge. But he was a very good hypnotist, too. And Derek studied with Milton Erickson. He went and did a seminar in Phoenix, and he showed me the picture of the room that they trained in. And wonderful. That's where he got his hypnotic skills, and from John Grinder as well. But Derek did a lot of change work with people. And he's the one I said used to work with alcoholics with a terrific cure rate. And what he did was he never turned alcoholics into non-drinkers. He didn't do the typical Alcoholics Anonymous thing where you look in the mirror every day and say, I am an alcoholic, which is wiring it in at the level of identity. Instead, he turned alcoholics into social drinkers so they could have a beer or two or a couple of glasses of wine and then not even think about it for a few days, which is ideal. Well, Derek, in his amazing hypnotic work, used to have people come to his apartment on Walmer Road in Toronto, a high-rise, beautiful building. And one woman came in for therapy, and he was working with her, and she was in a powerful hypnotic trance. When all of a sudden, she opened her eyes, didn't even glance at Derek, ran out of the room, out of his apartment, and was gone. And he sat there in shock for a moment, and then decided to wait, because her purse was still in the apartment, and he knew she'd be coming back. And sure enough, about 5 minutes later, she came through the door, shut it behind her, locked it again, walked across the room, still in a trance, sat down in the chair, eyes closed right back where she was. And it wasn't until he finished the hypnosis session, she said, oh, that. When he said, what was the rushing out of the room all about? She said, oh, that. I realized my car was about to run out of time on the parking meter, and I went back and put my money in. So her unconscious mind was tracking how much time was left. She dealt with it, came back, and presumably he managed to fix whatever the problem was as well.
So she just pressed the pause button and then resumed
and
all on her own.
And she came back.
Thank you for listening to podcast episode 67, Brain Software with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. Make sure you check out all the links we gave you in this episode. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/handwriting for the graphology course. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/HT Live 2016 for the HypnoThoughts Live promotion that we've got for you with Mindscaping. Attend our conference for free. Leave a rating for the show in iTunes, 5 stars if you think we deserve it. And check out our website and make sure you get on our mailing list for all the awesome stuff, like sending you these new podcast episodes to you by email. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Hello, my name is Heinrich Dieter. I would like to perform a song I wrote called Based on the Old German Adage of why is it when someone wakes up in the night and they have progressive myopia, they cannot see the clock properly, and so they have to put the glasses on in order to look at the clock, but unfortunately, the glasses are too far away for them to grab onto. The song is called Auf eine Mehrvermögen Aufmerksamkeitsverteilung, and it goes like this. Why it is that when I wake up, my watch and my glasses are always out of reach. I want to know the time, but I cannot see. I put my hand out for my glasses and they're always out of reach. Aufmerksamkeitsvermögen, Aufmerksamkeitsverteilung. I reach across the room, but my glasses fall off the bed. The clock's too far away, and I fall upon my head.
That's the greatest one yet.